Hello, I'm Angela Martin and welcome to another episode of Digicast. Now in this episode we'll be looking at the new features of Apple's latest macOS 10 release, also known as El Capitan. Now before we get started with the new features of El Capitan, let's get a better understanding of the new operating system. El Capitan is a refinement of its predecessor known as Yosemite, which means that El Capitan have been improved both in performance as well as in security. This is besides the adding of new features. Now, if you have not installed El Capitan as yet, it is highly advised that you first make one backup of your computer before the installation. Also, to check the compatibility of any third-party applications on your current operating system. And this you can do by going into the vendor's websites. Also, you can check the compatibility on a website called roaringapps.com. This we will look into a little bit more detail before we start with the new features of El Capitan. Also, if you are using your machine for business use, it is advised to rather wait until the release of its first point update before the installation. Now, as earlier mentioned, the easier way to check the compatibility of your third-party apps on your Mac before the installation of El Capitan is to go to a website called roaringapps.com. So when you're within the website, you can click on the View OS X Apps button, which will go into the option where you can either view the compatibility table showing you the different apps that are and are not compatible within El Capitan, or if you have a number of third-party apps, you can also download the Roaring Apps for Mac app, which will scan your computer and show you the ones that are compatible to the ones that are not. So let's get started with the new features of El Capitan. Now when you start up the Mac after the installation, the computer will have a brand new background image of the El Capitan mountain. One of the other cosmetic changes is that the system font have been changed from the Helvetica Neue font, which is on Yosemite, to the new San Francisco font. The same font is also being used on the iOS 9, which is on the iPad, iPhone and iPod touches. You also have the ability to find your mouse pointer, especially in a situation where you have multiple displays. By just wiggling your mouse or your trackpad, you'll see that the mouse pointer will become enlarged. Now that we've looked at the cosmetic changes as well as small features that's been added on, let's look into more detail into some of the major functions, such as our Spotlight search. Spotlight have been improved in El Capitan to the point where you can use natural language when creating your search. Now, instead of only searching for a file on your computer with using the file name or content of the file, you can use sentences to improve your search within Spotlight. Now, for example, I can use time frames as well as containment requests within my sentence to refine my search. Now, as an example, I will search for a document that contains the amount 13,999 Rand, which is within my Mac. So I'll go to my Spotlight in the top right hand corner of my Mac, or just use the shortcut key Command and Spacebar, and I type in documents containing 13,999, and as I can see, it gives me the file that I'm looking for, which is the tab.docs, and I can see that there's a preview as well of that file, which shows the amount that is contained within the file. I can also use my time frames as mentioned. So if I should look for, let's say, movies created 11 months ago, and here I found the movies, and I can take it a bit further and say containing Mac, and there I found in my search movies created 11 months ago. There's the intro to Mac, which is my movie that I'm looking for. The other thing that I can do with Spotlight is that I can now move it from where it was placed in the center of my screen. In Yosemite, I can now move it around to any position on my Mac. I can also stretch out my Spotlight search if I want to see more detail within my search. So the additional features of Spotlight Search is that I can search for a weather report for a certain location, for sports results, as well as stock and trade within the stock market. However, these features are only available to North America, Europe, Australia, and some parts in Asia. But with the updates of El Capitan, it will become available to the rest of the world at a later stage. So that wraps up our first episode of the new features of El Capitan. In our next episode, we'll be looking at the navigational features of the new operating system, starting off with looking at the new features within mission control, combining it with split view, and also looking at the new multi-touch gesture. So thank you for watching this episode of Digicast with me, Angela Martin. Hope you have a fantastic day, and goodbye.